Hey, it's Matt from the WP Minute. Thanks for joining today's live stream and sort of capping off the 2024 year in WordPress with our special guests today. As always, you can subscribe to the WP Minute over at thewpminute.com/subscribe, as it is the #1 way to stay connected with all the things that we do here at the WP Minute, from publishing freelancer blogs to doing tutorial videos here on YouTube, and of course, the extended interviews that you know and love at the WP Minute Plus podcast. All of that stuff can be found weekly at thewpminute.com/subscribe. If you're a WordPress business, now is a great time to sponsor the WP Minute. Our deals are still going throughout the month of December. If you want to support the work that we do here at the WP Minute, reach out to me on Twitter, on Blue Sky, send me an email, or go to the wpminute.com/contact. Reach out. Let me know that you would like to have your WordPress or WordPress-centric business front and center to a very engaged WordPress community here at the WP Minute. The audience, the listeners, the viewers, the commenters, the tweeters, the posters, the wpminute.com/contact if you want to support our work and get your business set up on a fantastic omni-channel publishing platform that is the WP Minute. We're going to dive into today's video in a moment. Go ahead, kick back, relax, bring your questions, comments, concerns into the comment section wherever you're watching today's video. Here we go with another live stream only at thewpminute.com. Oh, my friends, Mark Szymanski and Brian Cords. This is the year end. End of the year?
Beautiful intro.
This is the end of this is the end of WordPress? Oh, I don't know, just kidding. Oh boy, welcome everybody joining the live stream. I made that video minutes before, which is why we were late. Got another special video coming up too. It's fun. It's fun.
I feel
love
like
live
a
streaming.
European dance party, like a rave or something. This is sick.
This is for the likes. If you're watching, like the video, smash the like button, share it on social media. I got to do all the things that I've learned from Kevin Geary on how to live stream on YouTube. Notice I said Kevin Geary and not Mark Szymanski.
He's one of the best. I'm a noob.
Mark, where can folks find you on the web? Let's get those kudos out of the way first. What are you up to these days? Where can folks find you?
Yeah, if you just head over to mjs.bio, I have all my links there. It's a little link in bio page. I'm on YouTube. Yeah, I'm around. I'm on X, all the stuff. Just go there and you can find me.
You're doing your live stream this week, right? Is a special holiday one? You're going to wear like a reindeer suit or something?
Yeah, I don't know. I might have to go buy one real quick. Yeah, Thursdays, 11 a.m. Eastern. You know, that's where I'm at. I'm on the interwebs doing these types of things. So appreciate you having me, Matt. As always, excited for this conversation.
Brian Cords, prolific WordPress content creator, got a new podcast. I think it's the best, highest rated, last time I checked the charts, highest rated WordPress podcast in the month of December. Where can folks find that?
Yeah, you can get the podcast. It's webmasters.fm, available where all fine podcasts are syndicated, and YouTube and whatnot, and have a lot of really exciting guests coming up.
How has that journey been for you, podcasting and doing all the things?
Terrible. Podcasting, it's like WordPress. It's like ancient technology and nothing works, and you think you're going to do it yourself, and then some giant tech companies come in and say like, no, we're going to make it all worse for you. But the actual conversations have been fun.
I noticed that my episode has been the worst in the series. As expected, you know, I'm not really the developer type, sort of webmaster. I like to consider myself a webmaster. Is that a play on words, like webmasters for anyone, or are you kind of like holding that close to the chest?
No, it's like, you know, like back in the day, you know, whoever launched the website or managed it, they'd be like a webmaster. And I like still talk to a lot of people that work at like universities and stuff. And like, that's what they call you still. If you're running all the WordPress sites at a university or something, then you're like the webmaster. So, no, you don't have to be a developer. You just be somebody who makes things on the web.
Mark, do you resonate with webmaster?
It's always been a hard thing because I'm definitely not a designer, not really a developer. Yeah, web admin, webmaster. I don't know. It's tough, but I like webmaster. I love the series too. It's fantastic, Brian. Good stuff, man.
And you came up like your focus, Mark, was IT, right? That was like the core of the business, and then you got into web.
Yeah, I was dabbling with that. Yeah, you don't want to go too deep into the IT thing unless you like actually want to pull your hair out. So yeah, it was always dabbling there, but yeah, kind of went that more of the actual design and development route. Yeah.
So you could help me set up my printer
I mean, for a pretty penny.
for a pretty
Yeah,
penny.
maybe.
For a pretty penny. Well, today we're going to talk we're going to look back. We're going to look back on the year of 2024. We're going to get some opinions from Mark Szymanski and Brian Cords. Hopefully those of you who are also watching in the chat. If you're out there, go ahead and say hi, all 6 of you, and chime in with whatever it is you have to say about the year 2024. We're going to see, I told both of these guys we're going to talk about 2024. I went all the way back. I went back to like 2009, and I got some interesting insights into State of the Word. State of the Word just happened, 2024 in Tokyo. I was asleep. Not through the whole thing, but I was asleep when it happened. And I got some great highlights from it. I blogged about it. A lot of Matthias's outlook on WordPress. We can chat about that for a little bit. I'm going to play this new segment that I quickly recorded minutes before I hit record. It is not edited, so you'll see me looking away, clearing my throat. It's the Matt Rants section. Here we go. So here we are, folks, 2024, and we're still arguing over what WordPress even is. Is it a CMS, a blogging tool, the operating system of the web? It's like we're debating whether water is wet. Meanwhile, the community has been locked in these epic battles that make Republicans and Democrats look like a kumbaya circle. Gutenberg, the site editor, people still treat them like they're the new kid on the block who caught smoking behind the gym. It's been a year of we can't agree on what we're doing, but we're definitely not agreeing quietly. Then there's this nuclear level slap fight, Automatic versus WP Engine versus private equity versus open source morality. You know, the big question, if you make money off open source and don't give back, does that make you Darth Vader? Suddenly, the WordPress world feels like a two-party system. You're either with Matt or against him. Everybody's so busy picking sides, we've completely forgotten how to just build cool stuff together. Remember the good old days when we loved WordPress because it was new and open and gave us something we'd never had before? That feeling is on life support. Now it's just a tool. Still good software, sure, but the magic campfire where we all sang, "We are the world," is burning out. The community's fractured, the love story's gone stale, and we're left wondering, is this it? We'll still see forks, alternatives, and maybe the next big thing, but will it bring back that old spark? Don't hold your breath. Tech is evolving, AI, hardware, whatever the next frontier is. The suits have learned their lesson. Let's lock it down early. So if you're staying with WordPress, great. If you're jumping ship, also great. Just don't expect that warm, fuzzy feeling we once had. It's business now. We'll figure it out where the chip falls in a few years. Until then, WordPress is still one of the greats, maybe just not the one that is the love of our lives anymore. That's what I have for you at the end of this fantastic year. I'm looking at it. I'll say, I shared my thoughts there. I'm squarely looking at two halves of the years, even though it's, really this last 3.5-ish months feels like an entire half. I really see 2 chapters of 24. Mark, let me kick it to you first. Do you have a way of framing 2024 for you? Do you have a summary of sorts for your experience in WordPress for 2024?
I mean, it was interesting for me because it was my first full year. I mean, I just started. I honestly met you guys less than a year ago, or a year and some change. It was a whirlwind on my end from my perspective. Started off extremely good, very high energy and everything like that. Still high energy, but obviously in that last portion of the year there, it kind of got a little dicey. We were on ground zero for all the stuff at WCUS. I think probably there's different buckets I would put it in, how was if we analyze this from where the community is versus where the software is versus where the business is. I'm sure you probably have some you guys have some thoughts on that. I mean, it's just been wild. I don't know how else to frame the high level of it. But it's gotten a little interesting here at the end, and I think that we've seen, you know, like Kenny said there in that wonderful pre-recorded video there to begin this segment, the latter half of this year has gotten very interesting from the community aspect, which I think is a large percentage of this, you know, of this project and everything. So that's my high level. We'll get into more, but yeah.
Brian, you or one of your many children have any thoughts on
Can you hear them?
this 2024 season?
Can you hear them screaming in the background?
It's great. It's great.
Good, because I think somebody turned off Full House, so now they're upset. Yeah, you know, I was actually just realizing that I think it was the beginning of this year for me where I did the WP Tavern writing trial, and I was trying to think of what's happened since that beginning of the year in WordPress. It was like WP Tavern trial, Matt takes a sabbatical, Matt comes back from the sabbatical, all that sort of, you know, WP Engine stuff happened. It feels like that's been longer than a year, but I guess it really just has all been 2024. But the highlight for me right now is that I've been asking you over and over to do a Matt Report style rant at the camera where you do like a presented argument on something. And I'm just like so grateful that you did. And you gave me all my favorites. What is WordPress for? You didn't say blue collar, but I wanted you to say blue collar. You know, that was a classic Matt Report moment. And I just thank you because I've been bugging you for that.
Yeah, and I'm glad I could share it with you live in this very virtual room. Yeah, I mean, beginning of the year, I felt like it was sort of par for the course, but WordPress, but definitely we were really starting to have inflection moments of, man, are we doing the right thing is WordPress doing the right thing? Are we doing the right thing by WordPress? It was that debate that we've had for many years, and I'm going to play some clips from past State of the Words, which should actually, like, you know, kind of illustrate how we've all been at this for a very long time. But the point is like, it was sort of like par for the course. It was like that intense debate, start of the year. What are we doing with WordPress? Are we on the right track? It wasn't something we haven't seen before, although really starting to get long in the tooth with Site Editor and Gutenberg, and is it the right tool? That whole thing. And then this WP Engine stuff and automatic stuff and Matt stuff has really split the community. And, you know, it's pushing, I mean, it certainly has pushed people away without a doubt more than any other feature or decision, you know, or color scheme that has been picked for WordPress or the dashboard than ever before. And it's an unfortunate thing. I don't know if it can be repaired, how long it would take for like that community feeling to come back. And at the end of the day, is it something that is needed? Like, do we need that kumbaya that we grew up with? Or can we just finally say, WordPress is that tool. It's in my tool belt. It's alongside Drupal. It's alongside hand coding a solution. It's alongside having AI build a solution for me instead. Like, do we just look at it and go, oh, that was a thing I helped build for 20 years, but now it's just a useful tool sitting on top of the tool chest, right? I don't, that's the feeling I have, you know, and I don't know how long and if it gets back. I urge that community feeling to get back. The only thing that I know how to do is to have, like, you know, these discussions and gather folks around a central concept, ideal, or passion that they have for WordPress. But I don't think the hallway track of WordCamps and building this thing together is ever coming back. And maybe that's just life. I don't know. Thoughts, comments, suggestions?
I mean, I don't know. I like talking about the future because I like to predict stuff. And I just, from seeing, you know, being really into it this year, obviously being in WordPress, but really being into this year, you know, having so many conversations with guys like you both, and so many other people, and then seeing how the community reacted to something like that after learning and getting deeply ingrained in the community. You know, I would, you know, if you guys have seen me talk about this recently, it's like, I'm not like overly bearish. I don't think like WordPress is necessarily going to go away, but I do think that this was severe. I mean, I do think this was definitely a big fracture. I think there's a lot of people that did leave. You can definitely see it. And it's something that is somewhat unfortunate, but also, Matt, you've been talking about this for years and years because you predict stuff 5 years before it happens. You've been talking about like the Band-Aid type moment, and I feel like this was kind of one of those moments. And part of me wants to say it was kind of necessary because I don't know how you get to this level. I feel like this is uncharted territory from my understanding and my experience, which is, albeit somewhat limited on like an open source project of this magnitude that impacts this amount of people and is at this scale. I'm not saying it's not an easy thing to do and to handle and to, pilot that gracefully. So, I mean, I'm not really, I guess what I'm kind of saying is I'm not really surprised as to where we're at. I feel like it kind of had to happen this way. I always do that quote from Spencer Foreman from the WP Tonic episode I was on. Like he painted this great picture of being around a campfire before, and now we're no longer around a campfire. And I love that visual because it literally is exactly that. It's like it went from that, which was awesome, but now it's so big that, you can't, it's not the same experience. It's not really the same thing, even though it's still called WordPress, still operates the same. And I just think there's a lot of that is very nuanced and is difficult to get across in, the short videos and segments that we see because there's just so much history. And I've tried to absorb as much as I can. But again, I'm still early on in my journey, much earlier than you guys. So
I think one of the things, you and I talked about this, I believe, in an episode that's yet to come out here on the WP Minute. And I think this is just a human psyche thing, right? Where we've been building WordPress for so long, and just time is elusive. You just never really know, like, was it like Brian said before, it feels like it's been like 3 years we've been going through this. It's been like almost 4 months of like this, the current debacle. And we're going to take a look back at some of the stuff in the lineage of WordPress. But I think it's this thing where we feel like just yesterday we were all hanging out doing this thing. It's a hard thing to let go of, right? It's a hard thing to let go of because one, you want the success of WordPress. We all do. And you might have like this desire for WordPress success. You might have this desire for open source success. You might just have the desire to I want my business to be healthy and profitable. And that's why you want this thing to survive. But also it's like when you take a step back and you see where we've come, man, it's happened like year after year. I've been going back on these state of the words, and it's just like you see this progression, both like positive and negative, right? You see this progression of Matt as the leader of it. You see like the progression of Automatic. You see how like these talks have gone from like in a donated classroom at a university back in 2007, 2008 to now like the city of Tokyo in the background, right? It's just like huge, a huge difference there. Brian, I never asked you, when did you officially get into WordPress? What was your starting point in your waypoint in this community? Like, do you remember how connected it was, and what was it for you?
The first time I got into like the community side of it was I was working at a place where I was just like the in-house website person, and I went to WordCamp Orange County. So maybe 2016 to 2018, somewhere in that range. And I had no idea about anything. It just was like, hey, some people are meeting a couple hundred people are meeting to talk about WordPress. Had no idea. All these people that were on the stage, I remember like a Chris Lemma and stuff like that. No idea who these people were. No idea who anyone was. And from that moment, it was like a trigger, switched, and I sort of engaged with the community. But I think I came in by that point and it was already a bit more professional. There was big hosting companies in a sponsor hall, and this was a small conference. So I don't, that shift that you're talking about, that's saying it's getting a little bit more corporate, it's getting a little bit more professional. I think there's definitely, whether people will admit it or not, I think they kind of want that. Like they want WordPress to get a little bit more professional and better, and they want to see that. So I think it's kind of people getting what they want,
I'm going to do the old loop back trick. I'm going to play some clips. For those of you watching live, you'll see these clips on the screen. For those of you listening afterwards, check out the YouTube channel if you want to kind of see the visual impact from I keep saying WordCamps, but State of the Words from years ago. This is a clip from 2009. This is the early days of WordPress. I'm really pulling this out for the marks in the crowd to kind of see where WordPress was and things we've done, we as a community, and why we feel so attached to this. I'm going to do the old loop back device thing on my hardware. You guys on the panel know how difficult this is for me sometimes. Just thumbs up. If you talk, it's going to loop back in. Just thumbs up if you hear it after I hit play.
Does anyone remember this? Did anyone use WordPress at this time? All right, we got 1, 2, 3. Oh, a fair number. So you can have there were no colors. It was all black and white. That was the logo I designed. We're not using that one anymore. Thankfully, no one tattooed it. You can only have one category. There was no publish button, just a blog this. It was very simplistic. No options, no WYSIWYG, no tags, no anything. This was WordPress, I think, 0.70. Later, we upgraded. We put a little blue in the logo. We added a few more buttons there. You could save as draft, save as private, advanced editing, which then took you to a screen. So this was our simple editor. Then it was an advanced editor that did everything. It had like everything smushed onto one page. We later upgraded. We put your title at top. I believe this was 2.0-ish, but not out of many other changes. Then came the revolution. We introduced the color blue. This was quite controversial. Who knew blue could be so much trouble? This is, I believe, 2.0, and we added two things in there. We allowed you to move stuff around, added a WYSIWYG, which almost caused a revolution in the WordPress community. I put a little blue in there. 2.5, we did the big redesign. As you remember this, we worked with Happy Cog, looked at the usability, tried to simplify things. And then we did Crazy Horse, right? Who saw Crazy Horse when it first came out? This is what it looked like. And these screenshots leaked to the internet. I thought if we called it Crazy Horse, no one would use it. But it turns out that these screenshots leaked, and I was like, oh, this is going to be the worst thing ever. It's horrible. This is the ugliest interface I've ever seen. But luckily, we managed to go from that to this, which is what we all use and love today, hopefully.
So just a little to prime the panel and those who are watching, just a little walk down sort of memory lane, to look at where WordPress was way back to the 2.5-ish days, and we'll eventually see 3.0, which was obviously the biggest sort of leap, at least for me, and I think for many of us in the space. But the interesting thing here for me out of that clip was, man, the debates were happening about colors and pixels years ago. Like, this is stuff that I always talk to Mark about. Like, man, we've seen this story a gazillion times. Obviously not to the magnitude of, let's put WP Engine Automatic Mat on a different pedestal here, but we've seen these intense debates, which actually was a product name for Automatic, right? At one point, Intense Debate, or was that a third-party plugin? Either way, we've seen this stuff in the past. Brian, anything from you, like sort of looking back at where WordPress was and sort of how it evolved? Do you see that and sort of just like, that was nice. I remember those nice easy days, or the debate of colors and pixels and things like that. Any thoughts when you saw this clip?
I mean, when I saw the clip, the first thought was people have been complaining about WordPress changing since the beginning of time. Like, everybody just wants it to be version 0.03 or whatever and never change. It's kind of insane that you're seeing what feels like the exact same conversation happening. But yeah, I mean, I do think we'll probably look at the entire history of WordPress and we'll probably say there's two critical moments. I mean, people would probably have said Thesis and Gutenberg, but I think now it'll be Gutenberg and WP Engine will be the two critical moments that are the most shocking and stuff. But, to be fair, Gutenberg people will disagree, but it has paid off a bit. And, even when you look at like web stats and it's like Elementor, 8% of sites, Block Editor, 5% of sites. It's like, that's pretty fast. It's getting pretty widespread. I get emails constantly of developers who are ready to jump on board with it. It's taken some time, but like that bet paid off. I think people are realizing it. So I think it's just the natural tendency to complain about change a lot of the times.
Mark, that interface probably made you puke, right? You were probably just like, how did anyone use this?
I mean, it was a different time. You said that was 2009.
That was from the 2009 WordCamp talk.
Yeah, so I was going into high school there, I think. Anyway, my first thing watching that was, who was that guy giving that presentation? Because that guy was awesome. I mean, he seemed awesome. little different now, which I understand. I'm not saying it's again, I don't, it's, I'm an observation guy. I'm not trying to like be critical, but I'm trying to understand. Yeah, obviously that interface was kind of ass, but it was in 2009, so it's like totally understandable. Where it's gotten since then, I agree with what Brian's saying. Like people's natural, inclination a lot of times is to reject change, no matter what it is. I've obviously been quite vocal about the fact that I'm one of the younger people that I know of in this community, at least the vocal ones. There's people that have been here a long time. I obviously like to get kind of philosophical or like psychological with some of these types of things. And I understand, I can empathize with the idea of being around the community and being around a product for so long that you feel like you had a true impact on, whether that was in the PR or the GitHubs or Track or whatever the hell, like, or just talking to people at WordCamps. I totally get the idea that if you were here around that time and you actually, like, you were there in 2009 at that event or celebrating the release of 3.0, like whatever, like, and now you're here, I totally get the idea that it's literally a part of you. If you've been around for this 20 years, like WordPress is a part of you. I totally understand that. And I feel like that's why it like hurts so bad for people to see something like this and be like, oh, that's the last straw, I'm out of here, XYZ or whatever, or just like to see strife in the community in general. The only thing I could say there is that I just don't see a different pathway. Maybe it would have been the path would have been a little different, but the end result, I don't know if it would have been any different. Again, it's just go back to the scale thing. It's so big now that I feel like there had to be that type of a thing. And this comes again from talking to you, Matt, like it's just too big. It's too big. It's business. It's always really been business, but now it's really business. And unfortunately, people that have used it and have been in varying levels of business, so to speak, like in it, and like how deep they've been and how much money they made from it, how serious they are about the platform from that business side, not just a project side, that all of those things, you're going to get a different reaction from every single person depending on where they are on those types of those variables, so to speak, that they line up with. Yeah, it's just it's interesting to see the change though, for sure, from 2009.
It's interesting you bring up like the point as we go into this next clip. This was also from 2009, I believe. I'm pretty sure I haven't moved on to 2010 yet. But there's this evolution, and if I had more time to like put this all together, there's definitely a line that you can draw between like obviously the growth of WordPress and money coming into automatic and sort of. I've never really focused any of my conversations with Matt around like wealth and stuff like this, but you can definitely see a trend of him getting wealthier, automatic doing better. Let's just call it that, like automatic doing better, raising more money, becoming much more formal. Like it's just a natural evolution of, like you said, Mark, business. And you can see it from, which I didn't pull together, but in the start of these videos, you would have the logos of sponsorship, right? So in 2009, 2010, I believe was in San Francisco. I can't remember if 2009 was. 2008 was definitely in like some classroom. But the logos were like Microsoft, Adobe, Rackspace, like your typical big tech business back then, Google. And then you started to see it evolve over time with just like the WordPress stuff. And, I don't know if that was just intentional or whatever, just how it all shaked out. But you start to see these clear indicators of how he talks about WordPress business, how the presentations evolve into a much more like automatic branding, things just getting more professional, which is fine, but you start to see the clues sort of like stack up over time. And yeah, it's either just from like WordPress growth or just like, yeah, I don't know if it's intentional, but here's what Brian was talking about before, GPL and commercial themes. This was the intense debate. You kind of see some things here that are kind of similar to what's happening these days. Loop back. Here we go.
The new problem, the new sort of challenge that we're facing with themes is this whole idea of GPL versus premium. Who uses a premium theme? A better word is proprietary. For many themes, we had a big problem last year because people started to introduce themes that, remember the freedoms I talked about before? The freedoms of the GPL, the freedoms of open source, that would restrict your freedoms. They would say you can buy this theme for $80, but you can't redistribute it, only use it on one site, you have to keep a footer link, and any number of things. But Fortunately, some folks this year, led by Brian Gardner of Evolution and some other people following, started to actually take their premium themes, so themes that had extra features, paid support, things like that, and make them GPL. People ask, how can it be GPL and cost money? Remember the first freedom. You have the freedom to do whatever you like with the software, including charge for it. We could charge $1 for WordPress or something like that. But whoever gets it from you has also the freedom to redistribute it if they like. They should call it something different. There's nothing incompatible about selling a GPL theme. It's a cool business model. We'll talk about business models in the future. What they're selling, the code is becoming a commodity, right? But if they're able to sell the support, the updates, the everything like that, it's pretty valuable. We've had one of the premium theme guys, like the thesis guys, were like, oh, you should sue us to prove the GPL or something like that. I don't want to do that. But we do want to encourage the good things. We're going to be putting a page of all the people who are doing premium supported, commercially supported themes. So basically highlighting the people who are abiding by GPL and allowing the community to grow.
Abiding by the GPL, allowing the community to grow, commercial landing page for WordPress products. These are things you will never see again unless you get an officially supported marketplace. I don't want to spend too much time on this one, but this was an interesting point. Again, back to you, Brian, when you brought up thesis before. This was that moment where I think we started to see Matt get more serious about the business side. I mean, still hinting at at sort of like this community business thing, but that thesis moment, he makes a little joke here that they said to sue them to like prove the GPL. In fact, he did, but I don't think it was because they were cheering him on to do it. Although I don't remember. Mixergy, by the way, if you search for Mixergy interview, Matt Mullenweg, thesis, I'm forgetting his name, Chris Pearson, great interview there. Brian, any thoughts on the memory lane and having themes and Brian Gardner leading Revolution themes? Have you heard that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the core issue that we're still dealing with today, which is like, how do you make money and make something open source? And I've been playing with all these AI tools that are like supposedly open source, and they all have dual licenses where they're like, you get a core thing for free, but the minute you want any good features, that part of their code is not open source anymore. It's like a different commercial license. So it's like, yeah, you can install our AI tool on your server, but the minute you want to add more users, you're not under the open source license anymore. So it's like they're trying to find ways to solve it. Like we're still dealing with that same exact situation and the same kind of misunderstanding of what open source is and what the point of it is. And the point is always like, yes, you can see the code. And the point is never like, this type of community control that I think a lot of people want. And so I think it's just always going to be a balance that like Matt's always going to have to tread, which is like, I want everyone to make money. I want everything to be free. I want, the best of both worlds. And like, hey, we're here. It's worked out so far. Growth is still happening. So, obviously it's something right is happening.
Yeah. I want to illustrate this sort of evolution of business on the front and center and the stage, and we're all kind of working together. This is the same State of the Word presentation by the late, great Alex King when he took the stage, who started Crowd Favorite, now run by Kareem Marucci and his team. But Alex King was certainly one of the WordPress greats. There was a bunch of clips when I went down memory lane of Matt sort of recognizing core developers, and it's like 3, 4, year after year, and everything was just so tight knit. Again, difficult to wrap your head around like this connection we had to the community. Here we go, loop back.
While Crowd Favorite typically works on slightly larger projects, the Help Center is designed to pick up the slack at things that we were getting a lot of people emailing in with questions, small customizations, things like that we were having a hard time fitting in with our other commitments. We launched the Help Center, which is, I believe, the first on-call WordPress support and customization center, or you can actually just pick up a phone, call somebody, and get an answer right there. And everything's low cost. And this launched a month and a half ago, and we're already looking to hire 2 additional developers because it's doing very well. Good success story of being able to make a living and support people with WordPress.
Mark Szymanski, can you imagine putting your phone number out there and having anyone on the internet call you for WordPress support? Or do you do that now?
I mean, I think my phone number probably is out there. Not my main. I got a few phone numbers, but yeah, no, I wouldn't recommend that. No, yeah, absolutely not. But kudos to anybody that has tried. Because I mean, again, I know I've said this before, probably in different episodes, but like the WordPress Meetup thing, I think this is kind of like adjacent to that. I know it's not exactly one-to-one with that clip there, but that is another reason why WordPress, I think, has gotten so large, because you had this situation where, and I only got into it recently because I know the people that like started, have had them for so long, but that I feel like that was such a huge thing. I think it's died off quite substantially, especially in these last couple months, but like just the amount of people that were willing to donate their free time to like helping random people using WordPress was pretty incredible. And I think it was incredibly influential for people not like just looking at WordPress and then just stopping using it. And then kind of moving from that, maybe they get some business from that or whatever if people don't want to like do it themselves, but just so much community driven stuff. And you only get that when you really have that more of a kumbaya campfire feeling. I feel like, I don't know if you get that as much with like a, something that's more, I don't know, SaaS oriented in a way, which I'm not saying is where WordPress is specifically going, but that would be my thoughts on that. But yeah.
A lot of businesses came out from 2008, 2009, 2010. I was thinking about this before, man. Like the growth of WordPress wasn't just the software. I had kind of wrote about this in my monologue, but I had to like shorten it and really get it hyper-focused. I just wanted a couple minutes there. Like if you're starting something new as like a WordPress adjacent, a WordPress alternative, come get this new thing and let's get out of this WordPress community. Number one, like, okay, that's fine. That's great. That's awesome. I haven't really seen anyone like pave the path or present the blueprint to a WordPress alternative. And I think that maybe the thinking is the phrase like WordPress alternative or WordPress without, WordPress minus, now with 100% less fat, or whatever it is that folks are doing. Like there are alternatives like I think it's called is it Classic Press, right? Where it's just WordPress without Gutenberg in the site editor, whatever. Okay, that's cool. But I think if you're truly looking for this movement to get away from it, it needs a few things. It needs that central idea that is just an experience that is well beyond WordPress, something new, something fresh. It can't just be WordPress minus this one thing or WordPress with governance, okay? Like no one's gonna jump behind that, right? It has to be this thing that is just a beautiful experience. That is, maybe it's a part of maybe WordPress is the core of it. Maybe you're forking WordPress, but you gotta have this person or this group of individuals that makes this awesome thing that people want to get behind first. That's how WordPress was able to, accomplish what it did, because it looked at the landscape and it was like, we're making this open source thing that is an alternative and it's great, and let's get behind this. And then the community came. And that's what's really going to like get these things off the ground. Not the fact that you're putting together infrastructure and fucking GitHub README files. Okay, big deal, right? You need to have people bought into this awesome thing that you're building first and foremost. And I think that's the biggest challenge for anyone starting anything new. Brian, any thoughts?
I mean,
Pull the pin, throw the grenade at you.
I think that the internet of 20 years ago is not the internet of today. So like, we're not going to see a new crop of like crowd favorites and 10-ups and things like that, because like that already happened. That wave, it's happened in the internet that we thought we had in 2003, 2004 is like completely different than what the internet is now, where everyone is using it. It's very ubiquitous. It's built into all of our daily lives and stuff. So like that was a good wave that people had and like good for them. But if you want to talk about like a fork or an alternative, I mean, I personally think the thing that you would need is you would need a visionary person that has their face and their ideas very outlined that people can get behind. Because I think, like you said, like throw some ideas, better governance, no block edit or whatever. I mean, that's fine, but like I don't think people are going to trust that. I think if you had a bunch of community like heads of businesses come together and like be like, this is a vision we've outlined. We're creating the new WordPress, and they have their faces and stuff to it. Yeah, maybe people will follow that. You can connect with that. You build something on that. But otherwise, I think most people are just gonna kind of come back into WordPress and realize, hey, I can do whatever I want with this thing, and nobody can take it away from me. And it works with every piece of software out there, and there's a million developers who know it really well. I mean, I just don't think we're going to replace that with something new.
Those clips I was just showing were from 2009. That we're going to head into 2010, focused on like that through line of business, and we'll kind of see it a little bit. Hopefully you can kind of spot it. But in 2008, 2009, there was a lot of focus on this growth of WordPress. Naturally, again, as I was hinting at before, it was a great alternative. And also the years that WordPress was exploding was also the time that a lot of us were fucking experiencing what the internet was. Like, this internet thing is amazing. Like, look what we can do with it. And here comes WordPress. It was a right time for WordPress to evolve because you just had startup after startup, software after software. I mean, the whole world was innovating at that time. Financial crisis, people were looking for alternatives. This was just the right time for WordPress to strike. And you can kind of see it if you're crazy enough to watch these presentations in succession like I did to kind of see that evolution. Here's a clip, 2010, San Francisco, 80% make money with WordPress in the room. I don't know if we'll see that anymore these days. Here we go.
Some other interesting facts about people in this room, besides being, more attractive and smarter than the general population.
And I also just want to add, super quick, that Matt's personality, again, not to dilate on Matt, his jokes were much better early days, and then they got a lot more corporate and a lot more cringe as years went on. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but here we go.
80% of you are making money from WordPress right now, which is kind of incredible. The top three are, some of you, 22%. So 1/5 of the people in this room, WordPress is your day job, which blows my mind because, okay, good. I was like, uh-oh, question. I'm not ready for those yet. That's, we have, 600 people in this room right now? So that means, 1/5 of y'all are doing it. Custom development, 18%, and then hosting, 12%. And I've been totally blown away by the breadth and depth of the sites being created lately.
So just a little nod to seeing that evolution of business and how that was a core tenet in the conversations. It's going to be in stark contrast to another clip I'm going to play in a moment. But to keep things moving here, also same year, same presentation. For those of you curious how we get a new theme every year, here's why.
Default theme every year.
Nope. Now here's why.
What I'm personally most excited about in WordPress 3.0 is that we have a new theme. I didn't realize this, but it has been 5 years since we introduced Kubrick to the world. And it delighted us with its rounded corners, and it excited us with its blue gradients. But it's tired. And so we want to give it a little bit of a break. It is no longer going to be the default in WordPress. We have a new one called 2010. Which I think is absolutely beautiful. The work of Matt Thomas, Ian Stewart, it's really, really exciting. I took the photos. The 2010 theme is named as such because I never want us to go 5 years again without doing a new theme. So by calling it 2010, hopefully in 2011 we're really embarrassed and we do another one. And that's the idea. We want to do a new default theme every year.
2011, when we get to these clips before we get there, 2011 was definitely the year where I think you see a pivot in certainly Matt, and we'll play some anecdotal information as to why. But when I look back at 2010, 2009, I mean, I believe I was there in 2010. I can't remember. Man, just like people laughing. Right? Like people just loved the content, man. We were there. Like I remember just sitting in that room and people just running up the stage to ask the questions. They want to ask about WordPress. People were just excited and really engaged, slide by slide. And really, the other point here is like what I'm trying to illustrate against the backdrop of 2024 is those were the days, I guess, right? Like I have nothing else to say other than, man, I miss the community, and probably also trying to prove to myself that this is why this year has been so difficult, right? Looking back at these moments and being like, damn, really miss those days. But also being able to look back and go, I can kind of see how this thing was evolving to this situation. Mark, are you surprised this is how we get a new theme every year? Did you know how that was how it all rolled out?
I didn't know the origin story. Honestly, back then it kind of makes sense.
You didn't want to know, but now you know.
I mean, it makes sense. I don't think that's a bad decision. There's a couple things rattling around in my head, and again, it's more heady than probably, the typical WordPress conversation, but that's who I am. So like, first of all, that guy on those clips is like orders of magnitude more likable. Like just, it's unbelievable. Like just super personable, like witty, like kind of just like, and again, it's not to disrespect where Matt is now. It's just super interesting to see that, again, just the change. And I would love to hopefully have more clips. We can kind of continue to see some of that evolve. But more so for me, you make a really good point about how it has changed. The feeling of it has changed. Like there's so much excitement. And again, if you look at it objectively, it makes total sense. When something is growing and people are excited about it and it's getting momentum, the snowball's rolling down the hill, like it makes total sense that people are excited about it and they want to contribute to it and they want to do more things. They want to go to events. They want to do all that. It's not surprising. What I would love to like explore, we don't have to do it right now, but what comes to me is like, not from the WordPress angle, because I don't know if it can be fixed. Hopefully it can, and whatever, and that spark could be reunited. But how do you sustain that spark? Like what happened throughout, if we could continue to pinpoint those things where that spark just got like littled and continued for that to happen, where it's not like that anymore. It doesn't feel like that. And obviously maybe with the maturity of software, it just generally starts to happen. But I always try to think of, can we think of some comparisons? Can we think of anything that's similar? Like, how has Apple been able to sustain? Obviously, it's a little boring now with the iPhones, but there's still like have people like knocking down the door, I feel like, just as another random thing that's tech related or something like that. Like, how do other companies that have gone through this thing, not open source to like corporate, huge corporate thing, but like orders of magnitude even larger than WordPress, that are still getting all of that, just like, I don't know, interest and people loving their products and just buying them almost blindly. I don't know if it's just you just take over the whole market or what the deal is there. But that's just me thinking out loud, because I'm looking at the situation. I'm like, I don't love where it's at right now. I think a lot of people don't. What went wrong? How could we like learn from that? How could we fix it? Maybe, but really just like we're observing the whole thing. What happened and why did it happen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, obviously WordPress just blows away the competition. I believe blew away the competition, still does, from a numbers game. I think I have a clip in here where he highlights that growth. I believe I saved it. We will get an opinion from Dries from Drupal on his sort of quick take on open source. And I think I didn't have the whole clip of Matt talking further, but you'll hear some of the essence of like how Dries approaches open source. And I think in contrast to Matt, it's been kind of interesting. Let's go to 2011. I think this is where we really start to see the shift, and these presentations become a lot more branded, a lot more automatic. Matt starts injecting a lot more of like maybe his own personal growth into these conversations. This is a longer one, but I'm going to stop it halfway through. We start to see Matt injecting a lot of like this his own like personal growth milestones, and like, I don't know, just make it really simple. Like, you should read this book. You should live life with this saying. And it's like the turn of 2011 is probably, and somebody look it up on Crunchbase. I don't know if that's when like the money all came into automatic, but my God, he started really sort of, pushing like his mantras on not only the software, but folks in the room, starting with, like every great leader cares about how he looks.
We did a straw poll last year. We asked whether people use.
Wrong clip.
I was gonna say, is it cool?
I didn't pull that one. Here it is. No, I didn't pull that one. I didn't clip it. He did start the 2011 talk with addressing how his hair looked, and I don't think most people cared about that. So let's just go right to the business side of 2011 in his presentation, showing the growth of WordPress.
We did a straw poll last year. We asked whether people were using WordPress as a blog, as a CMS, or for both. So who is using WordPress just for a blog? Raise your hand. Who is using it just as a CMS? And who is using it both as a blog and a CMS? So we found a full 92% of the people who took the survey are using WordPress as a CMS. It's an incredible number. 3 years ago, this may have been 5%. I would say that the transformation to WordPress as a CMS is nearing full penetration, we're almost done, which is pretty exciting. So only 8% are using it just for a blog. We also asked, I thought you guys would be interested in this, about hourly rates. How much do people charge per hour to build WordPress sites? We got a huge range. From $5 to $2,000 per hour. It's like building websites for Elliot Spitzer or something. I don't know. We took out the outliers on both ends, and we found these averages, an average of 58 and a median of $50. It'll be interesting. We're just starting this number. We're going to start doing this survey every year. I'm very curious to see where this number moves over time. As WordPress sites become more CMS-like, more complex, and what you guys are able to do becomes more advanced. We had a full 2,800 people that said they were making their living from WordPress, or about 16% of the people who took the survey. That's more people than are employed at many web companies. I mean, it's actually kind of amazing when you think of the number of jobs being created by WordPress. And we don't know what this actual number is. We don't know how many people didn't take the survey. So hopefully over time we'll get a little bit better sense of that. If you are not currently making your living from WordPress, but you would like to, there are some great resources. We got jobs.wordpress.net, Code Poet if you're a higher-end consultant. WP Candy Pros is a great place to list yourself. Woo Jobs, Woo Themes has a great job board. Of course, Automatic, always hiring.
$50 an hour, as the average back then was quite amazing. I'm sure that number has changed slightly, or maybe it hasn't on the global stage. Maybe not. I'm not sure. Brian, do you know? Do they still? Is that part of the survey still? Is getting feedback on hourly rate? Do you know if that's a thing still?
I don't think so. I don't think they asked that.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. I get survey fatigue. I don't really fill it out every year. I'm just be transparent there.
I mean, I think I've seen that again, that step away of like caring how the community is making money with WordPress to just like WordPress, which again, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, just trying to like highlight the through line of we started all together and now I think we're, the presentations are much further apart these days from where we came from. Let's continue on with the growth of WordPress. Again, back in 2011, Matt highlighting some of these metrics.
And finally, I want to talk a little bit about WordPress growth. In the first 2 days of 3.2, we had over 500,000 downloads of the software. It's the fastest velocity of upgrades and downloads of WordPress ever. This was WordPress 3.2 Gershwin. We've now passed over 200 million plugin downloads. And to go back to the 8.5% prediction from last year, WordPress has now reached 14.7% of all websites in the world are running WordPress. But we dug in and we actually found a cooler stat that has not been published before. So this is the first time this is going to be talked about. So we worked with some outside firms to look at active new domains in the US and basically all new domains being created. And we found that out of every 100 domains that were created, new domains, active domains, 22 of them were running WordPress, which means our adoption in new websites is even higher than our current existing market share. So this means that the direction that WordPress is going is not just growing, but it's accelerating. So as I like to say at the end of these, The state of the word is strong.
The state of the word is strong. I don't know if we'll ever get that feeling back. That was sort of how that one, capped out. A lot of applause, a lot of great feelings in those rooms. And I think that we've sort of moved on from that clearly moving forward. Mark, any thoughts on those stats from back in the day? I mean, starting to see the evolution and how far WordPress has come, and from 2011 even just to 2024.
Yeah, I think the takeaway there for me is don't grow out your hair. Because if you do, it's just some sort of correlation there between like a change in persona. I feel like I could tell just from that video. I mean, I say that in jest, but also like there's definitely, I feel like a noticeable shift from 2010, 2011. I wish I was there. I wish my past year I was there in 2010 to like understand that, because I feel like I don't know what else happened there, and maybe you wouldn't know because maybe a lot of stuff was happening behind the scenes, but I just feel like there did seem like a noticeable shift, like we were saying before you rolled the clip. Like there was a little bit more corporate-y, which is fine in my opinion, but I do think that you could be corporate and kind of still like give a very likable and still stay like, I feel like when he had the short hair, it was more like we're building this thing, it's going well. I'm just kind of being honest with you, and maybe this is the thing that you have to do as you continue to grow. I don't know. But there's definitely a noticeable shift there, and maybe it is correlated too with the stats. Like, oh, we're 14% of the internet now. We have to act a little different, which definitely is fair. I don't know when in all this like actual money started to be like invested or anything like that. I don't know if we have all those details, but I understand things change. It's just it's interesting to see it kind of in real time here as we look back.
Jetpack was also talked about in 2011, and sort of like the synergies of taking that .com experience to .org, and probably started to lay the initial groundwork for the monetization scheme for Automatic. Again, nothing wrong with it, but this is when we first started to hear about it.
There's been an innovation loop. I like to say that innovation in core begets innovation in plugins, and there's been some very cool stuff happening in plugin and themes the last year. The shelf theme is one that I really like. As you can see, it's sort of it uses post formats very interestingly, and actually has a cool horizontal design that can go back and forth. Which are things like the OnSwipe plugin, which creates a tablet formatted version, almost Flipboard-like, of any blog, any WordPress-powered blog in the world. So things like Job Roller, this is running a theme from App Themes. It's running on Woo Themes, which really uses WordPress not as just a blog or CMS engine, but actually as an application platform that they built something completely novel on. And then finally, this just came out a few weeks ago. Have you guys seen Presswork? It's basically a new theme framework that, in addition to having sort of all the HTML5 goodness and everything, actually takes it so you have front-end editing. You can go to the front of your theme and drag and drop widgets around and move the content area. It's a lot of fun. On the plugin side, we saw some innovation in caching. Super Cache and W3 Total Cache are doing great. SEO is doing well as well. We got WP SEO and the all-in-one SEO pack. Blogs are more backed up and secure than ever. Backup Buddy for backups and VaultPress for both security and backups. And something that we started talking about first in March at South by Southwest. One of the things that has aged me quite a bit this year is we've been working on feature parity quite a bit. Automatic has, between the two things we call WordPress, .com, This has manifested itself in a plugin we released in March called Jetpack, which shows part of the vision, but not all there yet. But the idea is that once you're in WordPress, you're part of the family. We've always said that. But there's always been trade-offs between the two, whether you want to host it yourself and have complete control. You lose some of the social features or some of the community features. You shouldn't need to. And that's what's going to be happening this year, hopefully.
Early predictions, early signals. Again, I stopped at 2011 because there's far too much content for me to consume on any given day. But 2011, again, being that pivotal moment for me where, sort of like noticing all of these trends of these discussions becoming much more about, some of course, the evolution of WordPress, but you started to hear less and less over time, I feel, about like all of us kind of building this thing. And I didn't really get that out of the 2024, WordCamp. Let's end it on talking about 2024. Did you guys get a chance to watch it? Do you have any particular thoughts or comments on what you saw in this year's State of the Word? I guess I'll start. It was a par for the course presentation for me. The only thing that I was, ultimately interested in was Matthias's presentation on like where Gutenberg or where WordPress is going, block building, inline commenting and collaboration. Biggest thing for me is that sort of WordPress for everyone kind of thing. Like, can it be for everyone? Should it be for everyone? Build, develop, design, write, I think were the 4 things there. None of it was really focused on a particular user. Like, I didn't hear humans or, for the community. It was just like, we're doing this thing so anyone can kind of build this thing. Massive, lofty goal. I don't know if you can be everything for everyone is the biggest head scratcher for me. Brian, I'll give it to you first. Any takeaways from this year?
I think the big thing is I think you're starting to see a shift in strategy for a few things. I think number one is, you're making me nauseous here. I think number one is since this one and the earlier open office hours with Mary Hubbard, I think there's a lot more willingness to admit that a lot of the roadmap decisions of WordPress are happening inside Automatic and that they're taking a firmer control. Matthias came out and said, hey, we're going to be doing responsive design and we're going to have filterable breakpoints, which is not anywhere in GitHub. It's not anywhere in social. In fact, he's been pretty adamant that he wouldn't do breakpoint-based responsive in the past. So that's a big structural shift. I think we're all happy about it. I think everybody wants to see responsive design in core, but clearly there was a huge conversation to get to this point and nobody knows, how that conversation happened. And so I think there's that piece is we're kind of coming to terms with, okay, a lot of this stuff is coming from internal conversations in Automatic and they're going to be more firmly leading the charge on all that. And then I think the other big shift is really away from I feel like Jetpack used to be a bit more of a centerpiece. And I think what Jetpack tried to do was basically give managed hosting solutions to any WordPress site. But now managed hosts have really given you all those solutions. You don't really need Jetpack's backups or security anymore because every host kind of provides that themselves. And so I think that's going to be another strategic shift is what is the role of Jetpack? Because if that's not really needed on most WordPress sites, what is it going to be? So I think those are the 2 maybe big takeaways that I had from what they focused on and probably what we'll see different in WordPress going forward.
Mark, is the future bright for WordPress?
That's a loaded question.
There's some nuances.
It's my catchphrase. I don't see it going away or anything. From the Say the Word, I didn't watch every minute of it. I didn't read your blog post. I had my computer read it to me because I don't read. But I'd echo what Brian said about kind of Matthias's piece of it. And also what you said, Matt. I think the best thing WordPress could do, given all the things that have happened this year and throughout its life, but specifically where it seems like the trajectory is going, is to just double down on the idea that this is no longer the campfire thing. And what that means to me is that you treat it more like a product in a sense, even though it's a project. Don't want to trigger anyone there. In the sense of you can throw stuff in GitHub. I think I sent you a voice memo on this, Matt, recently. You can throw stuff in GitHub. You can do all that. There's definitely going to be still open source contribution and everything. But at the end of the day, it's what Automatic says. Which it seems like it's kind of been like that. People have definitely said that for a while, but it hasn't been fully embraced, understood, or announced, I guess, is a way. I feel like there's been a lack of transparency specifically on that to a degree from what I've seen. I think most people just want to know what's going on, the truth of how things operate. They may disagree with it, but as long as they're not kind of there's not the smoke and mirrors, blurred lines type thing that we've always seen with .org, .com, all that sort of stuff. I think if people are made aware of that, then at least they have something They know what the real reality is, and then they can be mad or happy one way or the other. And I do think that we're kind of moving that way. I don't think it's an easy transition because it's 20 years of, heart, soul, blood, sweat, and tears. And I'm empathetic to all that. But I do think that that's probably where it's going. It seems like it's the only natural path. What happens because of that? I ultimately think there's going to be some strife, and I don't think WordPress is going to go away. I think it's going to be some rough patches. It's going to look different on the other side, but we're already seeing where it's going to look like. And if you're at all future thinking, you can kind of play it out. But I think the future is bright, but it's going to be a little dim here, maybe for 2025. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely an interesting chapter ahead for 2025 and WordPress. Let's go around the horn. Just one more call to action of where folks can find both of you on the web. We'll take some Q&A, and then we're going to play it out with just a clip because we're far over time. Folks still watching, go ahead, drop your questions and comments in. We'll see if we can grab those. Mark, where can folks find you to say thanks?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Matt. Just mjs.bio. All my links are there. I'm on YouTube. I got some cool stuff coming on the website, partnerships, things like that. A lot of cool content coming. Appreciate having you guys. Thanks so much.
Brian Cords.
briancords.com. And yeah, you can find me in most places, whatever the next Twitter clone is. I'll be on that one too. So find me there.
This guy.
And webmasters.fm. Let's not forget to pump the podcast, webmasters.fm. Let's go to some Q&A real quick as we play it out in the last couple minutes here. Amber Hines. It's too bad they stopped doing that survey. Studio Press used to do an annual one too. Now it's just the admin bar, but that skews low. Yeah, I haven't seen an admin bar survey result in a while, but I haven't really been... looking for like that freelancer data, except obviously until recently. Curtis Morrow asks, is anyone talking about the automatic for agencies push? Automatic, one of my last sort of monologues that Brian enjoyed, I guess, was, I call it WordPress now with lowercase p, and that's when they sort of announced their build a WordPress website for like $500 or something like that at WordPress.com. I think these are just like natural things that any larger organization has to do to, look, all of us are trying to get into WordPress agencies. Like, I want people to listen to the podcast that WordPress agency owners. Mark wants, content for it. Brian wants to maybe work for these types of agencies. Like, I think it's like a natural thing. It's not anything that I think is like super conspiracy. They're building tools, right? You can buy this WordPress.com stuff. That's just the natural advantage Automatic has. Any other comments or questions coming in? There are so many sites in WP, and for people to change, that would be expensive. Yes. Justin Jackson, thanks for hanging out today. Make sure to unmute Mark. That wasn't Mark. I'm flipping a hardware loopback. Hardware loopback button. That's the kind of podcaster. That's the kind of podcaster I am. You know why? That's what I do. Let's see. WP Tonic asks, I'm witty, right, Mark? Yes.
Absolutely,
yes.
Jonathan.
Yes. And a bunch of other comments from below. Everybody, thanks for hanging out today. We're going to play out this last clip. I think this is an interesting way to... Justin, Hardware Loopback's my DJ name. I am still a huge fan of open source. I think we're just in this weird chapter now with WordPress. I'm still rooting for open source WordPress. This is a clip from, it says a year ago on WordPress.com official channel. It's Dries, the founder of Drupal, Mike Little, and Matt all on stage. It was the first time they were ever all in the same room together talking about their stuff in open source. But this is Dries' take on open source, which I wholeheartedly agree with. This is what sort of makes me want to show up every day for WordPress. But then it's like capped off by just like the sort of like little rib jabbing that I think Matt has been doing for many years, but certainly now an all-out push against WP Engine. And you can see this stark difference, I think, from folks who really care about like open source and the open web and, running their companies behind it. Everybody, thanks for watching today, the WPminute.com/subscribe. Join that mailing list, subscribe to the channel. We'll see you in the next video. Dries Butart on open source innovation.
Open source is both of these things, for me at least. And I think the other thing to talk a little bit more about evolution that came to mind is like how open source is almost Darwinian. If you think about how corporations innovate, they have 100 engineers, and they have to be very specific about what they're going to work on to maximize the output. And so let's say both WordPress and Drupal, we have, let's say, a photo album plugin or module. And in fact, we probably have 30, right? Versus if you're a company, it would be crazy to develop 30 photo modules or plugins. It would just be insane. You would never do that. You would have one and you would try your best to make it the best one you can ever build. But the beauty about open source is you have all of these people that can contribute their own version and even fork existing versions to make it better. And eventually, just like evolution and Darwinian evolution, the best solutions bubble to the top, and bad solutions tend to disappear. And it's a great way of innovating. Yeah. It's a beautiful way of innovating.
It's open market in a lot of ways, and a meritocracy of ideas can happen. That's why I've never, like Drupal and WordPress, have never had beef. Ever. We've beefed with proprietary software before when they've stolen our code, like Rick's or other things.